Good morning, everybody. This is another edition of Ask the Experts. And this morning we are here live from around the country. And we'll start out first with Bill Wilson. Bill, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, Bill Wilson, Valor Home Services. I'm here in the Midwest, just outside of St. Louis, and glad to be here, help folks out with any of their flooring needs. I've been in the industry for about 25 years, a little over that, about the same number of years that I spent in the Air Force. I retired as a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, and glad to answer any questions that I can for you guys.
So does everybody refer to you as Chief?
You know, actually had a client yesterday reach out to me, and he when they read what's on the website, they see that, and I live real close to Scott Air Force Base, so yeah, I have a lot of people refer to me as Chief. It's an honor. It truly is an honor.
Well, thank you very much for your service too, Bill. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, so next we have Ann, and I understand, Ann, you're not liking the weather up there.
You know what? Actually, it was really not a great weather week here in Ohio, but today it's beautiful. It's sunny and 55. So it's a little chilly, but it's sunny and it's going up today, hopefully to 65. So
that's kind of our low right now.
And I know you're going to love that.
Yeah, it'll be a good change. I'm happy to see some sunshine, and the flowers are starting to come out. So spring's finally coming, I think. And I hope we're done with April showers to get our May flowers.
And where are you? Let everybody know where you are.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I'm just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm located in Chagrin Falls, and I'm here this morning in my design center, which is a 1,500 square foot showroom located in the heart of lovely Chagrin Falls. So thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for being here. All right. And then here to my right is my better half. How's that?
Hey, that's different.
My better half, Rob Matthews. So Rob, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Yeah, like you said, my name's Rob Matthews. I'm with Signature Home Services. We're a design build company in Keller, Texas. That's in between Dallas and Fort Worth. We've been in business for 25 years now, and similar to Bill, I was in the United States Marine Corps, crash fire rescue. And after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was a firefighter paramedic, went back, got my nursing degree where I was a pediatric nurse and also a contractor. So that's kind of a strange, everybody says that's a strange combination, but I've enjoyed it. You're up, kid.
Yeah. So I am Robin Burrell, the other half of Signature Home Services, and I'm a registered interior designer with the state of Texas. And together we are the only NARI accredited company in Texas. So that means that we've gone through a very thorough review with NARI, and they have accredited Signature Home Services. I am also a certified aging in place specialist, and Rob is also a certified remodeler. And we are the only husband and wife team in Texas or in our area that has that designation. I kind of go in and out there, don't I? So this morning we're going to kick off. We've got a question here for Ann. And it says, I want to remodel my kitchen, and someone told me I should consider induction instead of cooking with gas. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a really interesting question. I have some mixed feelings on that. I guess I would say I think that gas is terrific, and we tend to have clients that love gas just because they're used to seeing that flame, and there's something a little more emotional, I think, involved in that. And maybe they feel more like a chef. But as someone who loves to cook myself, I would tell you that I love induction. I think induction is well worth looking at. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. People think induction is the same as electric, and it is not the same as electric. It is actually as responsive as gas. So when you turn that heat up, it's going to be as responsive as a gas burner would be, but it's much more efficient because you're really just heating the surface between the bottom of the pan where it meets the cooktop itself. So you have no loss of heat coming up around the side. So it's actually much more efficient, and your water will boil quicker. There's a lot more even cooking whenever you have induction. So I would say absolutely it is worth looking at if you can get over the loss of the look of the flame. I think that is the only thing that that you're losing, but they're fantastic to cook on. I don't think I would personally go back to gas. The other thing I love about it is when it comes to ventilation, because you're producing less heat. So there is less concern. There's always a concern to ventilation, but there's less of a concern because you don't have that loss of heat coming up from around. So that would be my thoughts on induction. I would absolutely say look at it. It's fantastic. You're not going to get the same look as the Wolf range with the big red knobs, but
like the one right behind you.
The one right behind me, that's right. But when it comes to practicality, they're amazing.
And I think, don't you think overall there's just a stigma attached to having this big, powerful range? Whereas in Europe, for years, this has been their mode of cooking, has been induction. And
Absolutely.
Here in the U.S., we're just slower to bring. Man, I just keep. We may have to get rid of that.
We're actually on the beach in Tahiti, and we're teleporting this live from the beach. So that's why we're kind of going in and out. So, oh, never mind.
I'll just get rid of that.
Get rid of that. Okay.
I think
Back to reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Robin. They have used induction in Europe for so long, and it reminds me of like face frame and frameless cabinets, right? Here in the U.S., we're still so used to seeing face frame cabinets. That's another topic for another day. But you're right. There is a stigma attached to it. We have this love of what we know and what we've known. And, you think of Julia Childs and this big gas range like you see behind me, and people still want the red knobs. But really, if you're into cooking, it is absolutely something that you should consider. And I actually love, if I can say, I love the GE monogram. I don't know, have you seen those induction cooktops on GE? They're so easy. So you can just literally, the touch of a finger to adjust the temperature, and instead of holding a button and it goes up and it goes down.
Almost kind of like an iPad, I guess.
Almost like an iPad. They're amazing. Yeah.
Big iPad that you.
And I will add one more thing with induction cooktops. There is a difference in price. I mean, you basically with induction you get what you pay for. The more expensive the induction cooktop is, you get more of a range of power, and if the way it distributes and everything else. Isn't that right, Anne?
Oh, it's absolutely correct. So you really do have to take a look around. I agree with you 100%. And then of course there's also the cost that could come along with it, which is pans, because you need that electromagnetic. You need to have enough iron on the bottom to be able to create that electromagnetic connection. So that's really.
I understand that if a magnet will stick to the bottom of the pan, it'll work on induction. That's
yes.
Pretty clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we demonstrate that here at the showroom as well. I think, that's really an important thing.
We've done some installation of those, and we've had to run new electrical lines to get enough power to power one of those, because they might have had just a standard electric cooktop, and the electrical supply going to it wasn't large enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yes. So the next question we have is for Bill. And this homeowner said that their Brazilian cherry hardwoods have faded because they've had a rug on the floor, and so now the area underneath the rug is this beautiful color and the rest of the wood isn't so much. So talk to us a little bit about floors and how they can fade, because this also relates to cabinetry as well. So Bill, why don't you talk to us about flooring and fading, and it's not really fading.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys switched from cooktops because I haven't had breakfast this morning. So we're going to switch to flooring. So, yeah, so we recently, experienced this with something very similar. We had a Brazilian cherry hardwood floor that had been down for about 12 years. They had the area rug underneath the table, but they were getting a lot of direct sunlight. And typically with exotic or those really anything other than North American wood, hardwoods, it really tends to soak in the sun and it will change color. And Brazilian cherry is one of those things that it's a tropical type of tree and hardwood. It actually darkens and richens over time. But with sunlight, it actually lightens and really fades. And what I tell folks is most of the time it's really the urethane on top that's faded first, and the wood itself is not. But in this case that we had just recently, they had both. They had the urethane itself that had faded and yellowed out, and then they also had the hardwood itself that kind of bleached, if you will, and changed the composition of the hardwood. And we can refinish those floors. Sometimes if the area rug has been down for a really long time, you're still going to see a faint line all the way around there. There's no way to completely remove that, even with the sanding process, just because it's changed the hardwood composition a little bit. What a lot of folks are not real clear on is whether or not they can stain Brazilian cherry. Now, Brazilian cherry is a beautiful hardwood with a lot of different variants of colors and so forth. So we don't typically stain it, but yes, we can. But anytime you have a really dominant wood, anything like a Brazilian cherry or something like that, you really have to if you're going to stain it, go with a darker color. Some of the colors we've talked about in the past versus a lighter color. That will help hide some of that ultraviolet fading and so forth. So yeah, good question.
So, and I want to input and bring everybody in on this conversation, because I think that homeowners typically have this, I guess the best way to say it is a misconception that when they install, whether it be cabinetry or wood floors, natural stone countertops or, any natural material, that the way it looks that day that they put it in is the way it's going to look forever. And that's just not the way that happens. So Ruth Ann, can you talk a little bit about cabinetry and how, especially like a cherry cabinet, it's going to, let's say, patina over time. Isn't that correct?
It does patina. So it really tends to darken over time. So a lot of times when we have clients come into the showroom and they see a cherry sample, I'm always sure to show them a cherry sample that is also about 3 years old, because there's such a significant change in color from this almost, yellow, orangish yellow, very more muted and softer. It definitely tends to take on more orange and deepen over time. So when you're looking at renovating, and actually this just came up recently with a client of mine, I was sure that whenever we're looking at backsplashes and what have you, that this is going to work well with that patinaed cherry and also their flooring. So it's not just, it changes the dynamic of everything. And you really do need to consider that because of how it ages and darkens.
That was a great idea. I've never really done that before. Of what you said, you show clients like a cherry. You always go and look at antiques, and you see an old antique cherry cabinet and how dark it is. An actual new cherry is almost a very, very light color, maybe a little bit of a pinkish reddish color. And that's a very good. I actually wrote it down that we need to start showing clients what that could look like in 3 to 5 years.
They were shocked when they saw the difference. I would say the original sample I showed them was 2 years old. And I said, well, wait, this is great, but before we order your kitchen, we're getting a new sample so you can see what the new cherry looks like, because I know that it's going to be different. And they were shocked. And honestly, they currently have a cherry kitchen. Actually, we're replacing cherry with cherry again. And they had no idea, because you don't realize it when you live with it. But if you were to pull that old cherry out and put new cherry in, they would say, wait a minute, this isn't the same wood species. How could this be? So yeah, I think that's really, really important when you're working with cherry, that they see both something that's aged and something new. So they know what they're going to be living with now and what the future looks like.
And Bill, getting back to the Brazilian, cherry floors, in my opinion, that's one of the beauties of Brazilian cherry, is that it will age over time. And to me, it just gets a much more richer look. Don't you agree?
Yeah,
Kind of like
we were
women.
talking. What's that, Rob?
I said kind of like women. They get more beautiful as the years go by.
Okay, I'm going to let you kind of drift off with that, because if you say much more, you might get in trouble.
Yeah.
But and obviously, folks need to understand, when you guys are talking cabinets, you're talking American cherry, right? Brazilian cherry is different. It has a lot of different colors and looks to it, so it ages and patinas differently than even American cherry. But yeah, the interesting thing is, we were talking originally, Brazilian cherry started off at almost like a feature strip that was kind of an inlay in hardwood floors, and over time, folks loved it so much that they started using it throughout the floor. We don't see as much of it anymore, but the product's still out there. It is really a really neat feature that you can look at over time, and it gives you the appearance of change over time. So if you like to change things, that type of floor will definitely change over time, and change colors and change moods. I call it moods just because of that.
I would like to jump in one more minute while we're talking about cherry, if that's okay. I actually quickly grabbed a door sample, one of the ones that I was just talking about. So here is a natural cherry door. This was just ordered for a client so they could see the new natural cherry. Now, what I'm sure you as professionals can see on this is that this is not one solid piece of cherry, right? So you can see that it has kind of 4 different strips together. And I think that's really important to point out, that the reason that you see this is that this does come at a different price point. So, Bill, I don't know if you see similar situations in the flooring industry, but I know Rob and Robin know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think it would be great to just kind of talk about this for a couple moments. And part of the difference in if you go with a less expensive natural cherry versus a little more expensive, because there are grades of wood and there are different ways of construction that will make a difference. So a natural cherry door is not always the same.
Yes, and I think, Bill, even in flooring, that can make a big difference, because you can get, let's just talk natural stone, and this would be for countertops or backsplashes too. You can get vein cut. I mean, there's just lots of different ways that it can be cut, and that can really, change the look of flooring, for instance, right, Bill?
Yeah, so I always tell folks that, first of all, what you see on the floor is the worst part of the tree. It is what's left over. So after the furniture industry gets their portion of that tree, they pick out their prettiest pieces for furniture. Then you have the cabinet folks pick out their prettiest features and so forth. And then what's left over is the floor. And you do get that wide range of quality. In our industry, in the hardwood floor industry, there are different grades of material. So you might find that you have a number 1 common or a number 2 or tavern grade. where you're going to have knot holes, and there's definitions for each of those different grades. We typically try to stick with a select and better grade, unless someone's looking for a very rustic look, because we want those knot holes to be filled that are in there. And a lot of times you don't see that in a cabinet door, right? Because they picked that piece and made sure that they give that to us flooring guys, the knot holes and so forth. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're looking at the quality and looking at the specific grades and knowing what you're purchasing. So whether it be cabinets, I'm sure, or flooring, we always specify the grade that we're looking at.
One thing that you can, most of our viewers can probably relate to, if not, next time you're in one of the big box stores, HD or Lowe's, walk down the plywood aisle and you can see the different grades. You'll see one sheet that's got a lot of knots in it, even the ones that have the little footballs that they've used to patch. And then you get on down the line and then you start seeing some really smooth finishes with no knots and a really nice grain. But there is a huge cost difference between one and the other. And just like Bill said, they're graded A1, A2, C, or, it's like that. But you can just look at that, and that will kind of explain what he's talking about.
And I think another great example, and Rob, you can probably talk about this, when, we will travel a little bit outside the house, but, when somebody needs to make some repairs, let's say if it's the drywall or the soffits or even the roof, the materials, even if they've been up there only a year, if you come in and try to match what they have, talk to us about that and what, homeowners should expect.
Yeah, we have to talk to homeowners, especially when we're doing room additions, when we're tying into the existing roof that may have been up there for 5 years, when we can get the exact same shingles, the exact same color from the same manufacturer, and when we install it, it looks totally different. So we have to tell homeowners that it is going to look different just because of the fading, especially here in Texas, because it's getting that massive heat, and it does fade over time. Just like copper roofs, if you put the nice shiny copper up there, it's not going to look the same as something that has patinaed for a while. So, and some people say, well, it'll catch up to it, with the other. Probably not. You'll probably always see a little bit of a difference, but kind of like what Bill does when he laces the new wood back into the old, they take out more than needed and lace it back in to try to blend it in. So we'll do the same thing with roofing. The same thing with brick. Whatever brick we remove, we'll try to mix it in with the new brick so it doesn't look like you have just a complete change of color from one to the other. And I could go on with paint, different types of trim, and so on. So, but yeah, the key whenever we do any outside work is to make it look like it's always been there or was there when the house was built originally. And sometimes that can be difficult.
I really and truly think, and y'all can chime in here, it's always about setting the expectations. And I think us in the industry, we're so used to, taking into account these variables that happen over time, but homeowners don't, think about these things like a copper sink. And you can probably talk to this too. Homeowners love copper sinks. They love copper pans, but they're only going to look as good as the day they're installed or taken out of the box, because again, copper is a natural product and it's going to patina over time, just like Bill's Brazilian cherry hardwoods. So I think that's something that we have to talk to our clients about. So talk to me a little bit about, Bill, like what you advise your clients when they're looking at, let's say, hardwood floors. What are the key things that they need to look at? Let's say they don't want their floors to change. How are you going to advise them?
If they don't want their floors to change, obviously that's a difficult conversation to tell someone that they are going to change, right? So we have that upfront conversation like you talked about, but we really limit the choices of products. So we look at things, common products like oak. Oak does not necessarily change over time like a cherry would, right? Darker woods are going to really lighten and fade a lot more. We look at the stain colors or the color of the stain if it's a pre-finished product. We also look at the gloss levels because the gloss level, with a high gloss level, it's going to show change, whether it's going to a lighter or scratches and so forth. So we try to talk through those choices that they make to really hone in on what they're wanting, but always set the expectation that there's everything is going to change one way or the other.
Now, Bill, what about the luxury vinyl that everybody, it's kind of like a hot material right now. Will that change any over time?
Luxury vinyl is fairly new, so we don't know exactly. I can't bring a piece of luxury vinyl in that's 10 years old yet and compare it. But if you think about this, luxury vinyl, the components of luxury vinyl are PVC. It's kind of like a PVC pipe. If you leave that PVC pipe outside in the sun, it yellows over time. So we've put paper over the top of the PVC to give you that print look on the luxury vinyls, unless it's 100% vinyl that's colored. But over time, I expect that those things are going to change. One of the things interesting, kind of off topic, but still on luxury vinyl, is putting luxury vinyl at a sliding glass door or a French door where you get a lot of direct sun. That product expands and contracts, really expands. And they've tried to make it a little more dimensionally stable, but it expands so much that you can actually take a piece laid in front of the door for a hot sunny day for an hour, measure it, and then put it in the refrigerator or freezer for a few minutes, and then measure it. It'll be two different sizes because it expands and contracts that much. And a lot of folks don't realize that with the luxury vinyl products. So we try to talk about those types of things as well when they say they don't want things to change, because it is a difficult conversation to have after the fact, right? So no one wants to say, well, why didn't you tell me that when I purchased the product? So anytime we have those things that we know are going to happen, we try to have that upfront conversation about change.
And Ann, talk to us about when, you've already showed us the cabinet, but let's say somebody comes in, the kid's dinged up, like they've got the white painted cabinets like you do behind you, and the kids have dinged up the cabinets and they want to have them touched up. So how do you talk to your clients about products and what they can do and can't do?
Yeah. So when it comes to touch-ups, we are always very clear that you can never get that factory finish back. Once you have that chip or that ding, we can come in and if it needs sanded lightly so things can blend in. But blend is a term that we tend to use a lot. And like you, we try and set the expectation because people have no idea. They've moved into, a lot of them have never remodeled before. So they're in a home that it is the way that it is. So their expectation is that it's going to get put back the same. And there may be imperfections that they expected and accepted in their home. But when it gets remodeled, they are looking more honestly for perfection, unless you can explain to them why there are things. So I think setting those expectations, and like you said, Rob, we try and blend, you blend things. So we give the best examples we can to show our clients and tell them, and use language like blend and have them understand what that looks like and what that means.
On a follow-up with that, talking about the kids or pets or whatnot, dinging a cabinet, we usually try to tell homeowners, if you do have kids, smaller kids that may be running around with their tricycle and whatnot, try to stay away from some woods other than others. Go with a harder wood. We usually try to steer clear of the alders because they are a little bit softer and they tend to ding a little bit more. What woods would be best for, say, the island or lower cabinets in that case?
So, I mean, we would tend to do the hardest wood, which would be an oak, or even a maple's a little softer. You can do cherry. So I think staying with oak or cherry are really the best bets. But then the look comes into to play, right? So and then as you said, Rob, when you start to talk about paint versus stain, and we've talked about this before, that stain is going to hold up better. You know, when you go to touch it up, it's not going to be as noticeable. When you have a lacquer finish and you're touching up a paint, it's hard that you're not going to see that.
Now, I think in some cases, maybe not in all, but stain cabinets are going to be less cost-wise than painted cabinets.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
You know, guys, kind of tying that together, I think you guys know we do other things other than flooring as well. One of the things that we use for hardwood species, it's a scale. It's called the Janka scale, and that ranks the hardness for hardwood floors. And I'm assuming it works for all types. It's really a wood hardness scale. But what we find is some things, when you look at oak has growth rings, and when folks, they like those growth rings, but it takes stain and finish and paint differently, right? So that's the soft part of the wood. So if you're going to stain it, it's going to stain darker around those growth rings or that soft wood. And when we sand floors, we call it dish out, because if you look across the floor, you can see almost highs and lows based on the way it was finished. And it's very difficult to get that perfectly smooth. And I would assume in cabinets, the same thing. If you have a very grainy or a product that has a lot of soft portions in it, that finishing process or that painting process is probably very important to make sure that you get a smooth cabinet and a look that folks like.
Very much so.
I think being we had our own cabinet shop for years, and I used to build cabinets. It's not the staining part that is so important, it's the prep. Like people will say, how long will it take you guys to paint our cabinets? It'll take about an hour to paint our cabinets, paint their whole kitchen, because we're spraying it. It'll take a week to get them ready to paint. So when you hear someone saying, I was told that they can probably come in on a Monday and have them all done by Tuesday or Wednesday, I'd be a little leery of that, because it's just not enough time to get them prepped properly to get that nice finish that they're probably looking for.
Yes, I agree. Well, guys, we are at the end of our morning show. Or I should say our weekly show. Bill, why don't you tell us how we can get in touch with you if we have any questions, or we live in your area and we'd like to use your services?
Yeah, and folks can reach out to me wherever they may be. You know, if there's some specific things that are, I guess, pertinent to their area, I'd be glad to help them as much as I can. But yeah, you can reach me on my website. It's probably the best and quickest way to do that. Everything kind of funnels there, and that's just simply valorhomeservices.com. You can also reach us on Facebook and social media there. Those two places are the best ways to reach us. And if you want to call us and you're still on a different phone bill plan, you can reach us at 833-FLOOR-ME, which is a great way to reach out to us, 833-FLOOR-ME.
Awesome. And how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to us via our website, capozzidesigngroup.com. Always call our office, 440-247-9496. And of course, you'll find us on all the social media channels as well. So we're here and happy to answer any questions. And thank you again. This was, I think, another great morning and some great topics and very educational.
I even learned some things, especially the showing clients older samples of wood. So thank you for that little trick.
Rob, do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with us?
Sure. You can get in touch with us through our website, which is signaturehomeservices.com, or you can email us. I'm Rob, this is Robin, and that would be at signaturehomeservices.com, or you can contact our office at 817-753-6668 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
And we're also on all the social media channels and, of course, our website as well. We really appreciate you joining us today, And if you're watching this afterwards, then if you have any questions, please reach out and we'll be sure to get back to you. Otherwise, have an awesome weekend.
See you guys next Saturday.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.